What's the number one risk of buying a distressed property? You don't know how much renovations are going to cost until you actually get inside that property. Imagine thinking a renovation is going to cost $5,000 but actually ends up costing you $50,000. I don't want that to happen to you. So that's why in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how much it actually costs to renovate a property based on averages. And you're going to want to stay to the end of this video because at the end, I'm going to be sharing with you a hack that you're never going to have to guess how much a renovation is going to cost you before you even buy the property. That way you are never surprised when walking into a renovation that it's going to cost more than you actually thought it would. Now let's get into some basic things of a fixer-upper, like some things that you're going to need to do. That's a mandatory. And by mandatory, I mean 9 out of 10 times you're going to be doing these things. Now the first thing is paint. Now the average cost to paint a house, depending on the square footage, is $2,700. Now this depends on, the type of paint, the square footage of the home. All these different things factor into this, but the average cost is $2,700. It's $2,700 just to paint a house. You need to be factoring in this because like 10 times out of 10, you're going to have to paint a house if it's distressed. Now, the second thing is flooring. And again, just like paint, it all depends on the square footage of the home and what type of flooring you pick. You might be picking, luxury vinyl plank, or you might just be picking hardwood flooring. These have different prices per square foot, but the average cost of flooring is about $6,000. Now, you might only be wanting to do the living room, which is 600 square feet. You might only be doing the living room, the walkways, the hallways, and the bedrooms. You might want to keep the kitchen tile, might want to keep the bathrooms tile. Again, it all depends, but average $6,000 just for flooring. And the next thing is appliances. And again, this all depends on what type of appliances you want. Because whenever you're selling a property, right, and you're taking photos, you don't want this big gap where a refrigerator or a dishwasher might be. You want to actually buy these, refrigerator, not necessarily a washer and dryer, but a stove, a microwave, a dishwasher. And you're going to want to factor that into whenever you're selling the property. But the average cost is $3,000. Now, if we add all that up, just for the things that are mandatory, it's about $11,000, almost $12,000. These next few things that I'm going to be sharing with you are optional, meaning they might not always be like this. You might find a distressed property that has a brand new roof, whatever, but these are some things I want to be sharing with you. Another thing that is mandatory is you hitting that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Now, we talked about these next few things are optional, but you need to budget for them nonetheless because you don't want these things to actually come up and you haven't budgeted for it, and then now you're maybe $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in the hole. And if you need a coach or a mentor, there's going to be a link in the description down below where I can help you create the life that you want for literally less than 33 cents a day. So the first thing that is optional, it's a kitchen remodel. And now this depends on how distressed a property is, and also the price per square foot of remodeling a kitchen, what kind of cabinets you pick, what kind of countertops you pick, sink you pick. So this all depends, it all varies, but here is an average for you. If you do a full kitchen remodel, you're looking at about $12,000 in just the kitchen. Now, I'm getting all these averages from, let me look, from remodelingcalculator.org. They've done all the research, all the statistics, whatever, but the average kitchen remodel is $12,000. Well, you just spent $12,000 on the things that are mandatory. And the kitchen remodel, that just doubled, what you have to budget for. The next thing is broken pipes. And I've actually experienced this firsthand where whenever I was going through the property, doing my due diligence, I didn't have the inspector snake the pipes. What ended up happening was there was a ton of grease inside the pipes and was causing a blockage, and I actually had to remove a ton of pipe from underneath the ground and replacing it. This was a $5,000 mistake. So please, spend the extra like $100 to $200 to get your pipes snaked, because if that comes up after the fact, after you bought this property, it's on you to actually fix it. So broken pipes are a pain, and they cost on average between $3,000 and $10,000. So luckily for me, mine was only $5,000, but I was $5,000 in the hole nonetheless. And that property, it actually doubled. I doubled my money with that property. So it's like I wasn't hurting, but I could have saved $5,000. So the next thing is HVAC. Depending on the age of your HVAC unit, you know, your heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, and it depends on if it's forced air, if it's a furnace. You're looking at about $3,000 to $5,000 for a new unit. Now, if it needs to be what's the word? If it needs to be repaired, if it needs to be serviced, there we go, there's the word. If it just needs to be serviced, you might be looking at a few $100s just to service it. But again, it depends on if it needs it or not. It's optional. The next thing is a roof, and that depends on the age of the roof. If there's been hail damage, if there's been wind damage, whatever. Again, it's optional, because if it needs to be fixed, you just fix it. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. And so it depends on types of roof. Depends on the type of roof that you are wanting. This can be a big chunk of money, anywhere between $5,000 and $11,000 just for a brand new roof. That doesn't add a ton of value to the property. Yeah, it'll add a little bit of value onto the property, but it doesn't hold a ton. Doesn't hold like a 1-to-1 ratio. If you put $5,000 worth of roof onto the property, you're not going to get $5,000 back. Most experienced investors are actually going to be between the $12,000 and $17,000 mark, because they know, unless they are, you know, remodeling a property for a high-end luxury house, you're not going to go with literally the most expensive thing. But you need to budget for everything going wrong. Meaning, if you rip up some floor, there might be mold in there. You need to budget for everything, and so you're not, you know, guessing whenever it comes to actually purchasing this distressed property. Now, here is the hint, not the hint. Here is the secret to not getting surprised whenever you're buying a distressed property. So when you put a property under contract, there's a period called the due diligence period. You have anywhere between 5 and 10 days, like business days. So it's 1 week to 2 weeks. Take your contractor that you're going to be wanting to fix all these issues. Take them out with you to inspect the property and get a quote on how much the rehab is actually going to be. And now, this isn't just great for knowing your numbers. It's also great because you can take this back to the seller and be like, hey, I actually need you $5,000-$10,000 lower than what we agreed upon, because I'm seeing a bunch of other stuff I wasn't planning for. Like, there might be asbestos in the walls, there might be mold, whatever. So it's a great negotiating tactic. And again, if you want me to be your coach or your mentor, there's going to be a link in the description down below. And there's going to be videos popping up all right in here that I picked out specifically for you that I really think you're going to get some value out of it. So go check those videos out. Until the next video, I'm out. See ya.